So at the beginning of the 1790s, the United States faced a series of economic problems. These were the most pressing issues for the new government. The United States owed $54 million in debt from the Revolutionary War. Individual states owed another $25 million. The paper money, the Continentals, that was previously printed was worthless, and the country couldn't borrow any money from anyone else. So Alexander Hamilton, who was the Secretary of the Treasury, presented a new economic program. And he assumed that the stability of the nation required a strong alliance between government and the wealthy people in the country. In this regard, he was very much considered an elitist. He really believed that the wealthy and the upper classes needed to kind of manage the country. And he believed the best way to do this was to establish a bank of the United States. He really didn't trust the average people in the United States. So he really favored a strong central government and a strong central bank. These ideas that he presented were also supported by the manufacturers, the merchants, and the bankers, especially in the northeast of the country. So his proposal for the US government was to assume all public debt so that all debts that the states had and all the federal debts were all wrapped up into one, and to create a central bank of the United States. Number three was to tax whiskey producers for some more revenue. And number four was to impose a tariff on imports, also to raise revenue. But a tariff really helps manufacturing because that means foreign goods that are imported into the country cost a bit more, and it's easier for domestic manufacturers to compete. Finally, he also proposed a subsidy, a government subsidy to manufacturers to help that get off the ground, to help domestic manufacturing um, become stronger. And he saw this as the future of the nation. He saw industry, modernization, and manufacturing as the future of the nation. This creates an intense division between the Federalists and the Jeffersonian Republicans, who really saw the future of the nation more of an agrarian future based on much more remaining based on agriculture. So opposition to Hamilton's plan was led by James Madison and Thomas Jefferson that we see here on the right. Some states had already repaid their war debts, so they were also reluctant to wrap up all the debt into the federal government because now they would be responsible for that as well, right? The whole country would be responsible for the debts of other states who hadn't repaid their war debt. Next, there was an objection because a central bank was not talked about in the U.S. Constitution, and there was this assumption by many of the Jeffersonian Republicans that anything that was not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution was forbidden. So they saw a central bank as being unconstitutional. Next, the Jeffersonian Republicans really had more confidence and believed in the common people much more than the wealthy elite. So they believed that Hamilton's plan gave too much influence to the wealthy and also would rely on foreign investors to borrow money from and to um, allow them to invest and hold money in the bank would give foreigners too much influence into the internal affairs of the United States. Finally, they really saw Hamilton's economic modernization program that really favored the northern industry and manufacturing as really against this Republican vision of the future of the agrarian independent farmer that Jefferson and James Madison really believed would continue to be the backbone of the United States, and that for a successful nation they needed independent farmers to participate in the republic, and that would be the future of the United States. But ultimately, there's a compromise reached over Hamilton's plan. Thomas Jefferson would agree to get on board and get other Southerners to support Hamilton's plan if Hamilton would promote the idea of having the capital along the Potomac River. And this becomes Washington, D.C. So the compromise is the Southerners and Jeffersonian Republicans, many get on board with supporting Hamilton's plan. There's enough votes to pass his plan, and they agree to move the capital to Washington, D.C. Previously, the Congress and the government had met in New York and in Philadelphia and had moved around. But now there would be a permanent home in this area on the Potomac known as Washington, D.C. today.